All right, what is up, everybody? How are you doing this morning? I apologize for being a couple minutes late this morning. We had some cat drama today. It's been storming, and we've had to have our cats indoors because of all the rain and flooding and everything else. And Lucas has a problem where when he wants to go out, he gets very frustrated if he can't, and he will start to destroy things in the house. And usually we have like, cardboard box or something that he can chew up on. And for some reason, he did this about a month ago. He got a hold of Christina's charging cable for her phone and shredded it into little, pieces. And those phone cables aren't cheap, and got a new one about 3 weeks ago, 2 weeks ago, something like that. And last night, the cable got left um, hanging from the wall down onto the floor, and unbeknownst to either of us, he got up into it and chewed a second cable into little pieces. It's just, as much as I love cats, cats are being naughty this morning. So, apologize for being late, but I am here, so we're going to get going here. Um, Welcome to everybody joining. This week in Tabletop, a live discussion on all things TTRPG. If you are here live, welcome. We do these every Sunday morning at 8 a.m. Central Time for those of you who want to come hang out, tune in if you have nothing else going on a Sunday morning, which some folks do. So thanks to those of you who do hang out. What is on my cup? Oh, that was the reflection of the screen. It looked like there was like something on my cup right there. I was starting to get a little nervous. I was like, where did I leave my cup? All right, coffee. Getting going here. So this past week, some crazy stuff happened in the world of tabletop. We covered some of it this week. We talked about the Broken Weave Kickstarter project that was successfully funded in I think like an hour. Um, it got up and going from the Warhammer RPG makers, which is cool. I mean, I've also seen a lot of news of other 5th edition TTRPGs that are coming our way. So we'll probably be covering those in the coming week ahead. Today, after this live stream at 10 a.m. Central Time, we're going to be talking about another game, which I can't remember off the top of my head. No, we are talking about the Broken Weave one is today. I know we talked about it in a different stream. We were talking about the upcoming Kickstarter, but this video that's coming out at 10 a.m. is talking about the Kickstarter and talking more about that game. It sounds interesting. I don't know that it's my type of setting, but it's just another interesting TTRPG to pay attention to. We also covered Coyote and Crow, which I think is a really cool sort of science fantasy setting that has a basis in the First Nations and sort of like what would have happened if Europe never came to North America and South America and populated and colonized, and instead the native population of all of the Americas just continued to evolve. And then there was an ice age and some other crazy stuff happened, and then they got this weird, like, magical energy source. It sounds really cool. Um, so I talked about that earlier this week. I'm gonna go pick up the novel at some point this spring or summer and read through the Hemlock and Sage novel and see what I think about that. But the setting sounds really interesting. So we're gonna be digging into that as we get deeper into the year. Um, for those of you who watch this in a live stream format, I'm about to do a segment which will then be cut out and produced for a Monday morning video. So I actually need my notebook here because I got to make a timestamp mark so that I know where we're at in the video. So at 4:25 until, and then we'll do a timestamp when we're done. All right, I'm going to do an intro and an outro for this next segment. So for those of you who tune in live, it's going to sound a little funky like I'm doing the intro for the beginning of the live stream, but I'm not, because we're doing the intro for the segment that's going to be airing tomorrow because I pull these out. So bear with me if you're live. So 3, 2, 1, and Welcome, everybody. We're going to be talking about some more interview content from Kyle Brink, the executive producer for Dungeons and Dragons. Talked about a couple of different things he said in some other videos, but during today's live stream, we're going to be talking about a different perspective, some other stuff that was said that kind of made me scratch my head and go, huh? So if you're watching this during the live stream, awesome. If you're watching this as an episodic format, because I pulled this out, this is the point of the video where I get to say awesome. Don't forget we stream live every Sunday morning at 8 a.m. Central Time this week in Tabletop if you want to tune in for those. And of course, if you're watching this in episodic format, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that bell icon so you never miss an update as we continue to talk about tabletop and other things here on the YouTube channel. So, without further ado, let's kind of dive into this section. I think what's interesting to me, the interview that we covered a couple of days ago was mostly focused on the statements of how Wizards of the Coast wasn't being respected by Hasbro and they didn't have enough authority in the conversation and there was all these committees going on and Kyle Brink was like, I'm going to step up and make that no longer be the case and now we've got control and Cynthia Williams is now going to be, the one running the show and there's no longer going to be committee involvement and I don't know if that's actually true. I think a lot of people have watched the interviews at this point and said, well, first and foremost, you're not actually giving interviews to any of the media outlets. You're only talking to specific influencers, which makes it appear as though you're doing a very targeted public relations campaign as opposed to actually sitting down and answering hard-hitting questions. But one of the things that struck me, and I didn't talk about this in my last video, it was something that came up during additional research and reading this article over at Wargamer. Um, Kyle Brink claims that changes to D&D's OGL 1.1 were not made in response to money lost from the D&D Beyond boycotts. Now, again, the last time I heard anything about this, there were over 50,000 people who canceled their subscriptions to D&D Beyond, and there were more than 70,000 people who signed the petition to tell them to get bent regarding the OGL stuff. But that apparently had nothing to do with their decision to roll back the 1.1. Um, so we'll read through this here. It says, although Wizards of the Coast offered apologies and chances to give feedbacks on new drafts, it ultimately blacked down on plans to change the OGL 1.0. We already know about that. Instead, releasing the D&D system reference document into the Creative Commons. It says here during the interview with Three Black Halflings that Brink gave on February 6th, he said, we were already working on that document before the folks who decided to stop subscribing decided to start doing that. Um, Kennedy, one of the people interviewing, said that the delayed response from Wizards came out not long after a massive D&D boycott. Said it can't be coincidence, surely. And Brink responded with, "Sure it can, because it takes a long time to modify a legal document when you have a lot of stakeholders. It can't turn on a dime, and so it couldn't have been turned around in response to the decline in subscription because that would have been too fast. It would have been too short a period for a corporation of our size to pull that off." I don't buy that for a minute. When there is a crisis going on, and you are getting word from everybody about everything, um, they didn't make a rapid fire decision to turn that around. That was not something that happened quickly. That was something, remember, they were silent for like a week and then continued to not say anything for days after that initial response of you're going to hear people say that they won, but the reality is what they did, but we won too. Like there was a lot of time that happened, and for them to claim that they didn't make a course correction as a result of all the boycotts, I think that that's malarkey. Claiming that it's just coincidence, I think, is very disingenuous to people who have half a brain, especially to people who crunch numbers and play tabletop for a living. So it's one of those things where I just don't buy it. Especially when you go over here to, there's another article over at Dicebreaker when they have another clip where they said it was killing me. Brink told Kennedy and co-host Jeremy Cobb, he says it was killing me that it was taking so long. OGL 1.1 was a terrible way to approach the goals we had in mind, which is why it was such an easy U-turn for us to make. When you have a bigger community, you have a bigger duty. So hang on, if it's killing me that it was taking so long. Terrible way to approach the goals we had in mind, which is why it was such an easy U-turn for us to make. But yet you're saying that you didn't make the U-turn because of the reaction. You made the U-turn based on the feedback that they were getting. He says here, Wizards of the Coast was already in the process of revising the OGL 1.1 document before the leak. He says by the time the 1.1 version of the document was made public, we had already abandoned a lot of the things that were problematic because of the feedback we were getting. We just hadn't published that update yet, so nobody could see it. That's partly why 1.2 was so quick to come out after 1.1, because we had already been heading in that direction. The 1.2 did not come out quickly after the 1.1. It was a couple of weeks. Like, I don't remember the exact time frame, but it was not a rapid fire turnaround. It was something that took a lot of time while you guys were sitting there being completely silent with the community. So this is the thing that people have been pointing out, is it just doesn't seem genuine when you actually dig into what the outside was seen. Could it be coincidence? He claims it can be. I just don't think it is. But that's my personal opinion. I don't have any insider knowledge. That's just me being a halfway intelligent, reasonable, logic driven human being. Um, yeah. When asked about the week's delay between the leak and Wizards' first official response, Brink said it was a long delay that came out of many good small decisions. We were working on this document and we thought at this point people need to see actions, they don't need to see words. So let's make sure this is the version we want to release. Ah. You have enough stakeholders, each wanting to make it a little bit better, and perfect got in the way of good. Perfect got in the way of done. The silence was because we didn't want to say words at a time when words weren't going to cut it, and the thing to release took too long to perfect, and it compounded the silence. It was an environment where there was already such a lack of trust. Every word we knew would be scrutinized, and could be radioactive. There was honestly a fear of making it worse, a fear of saying the wrong thing and throwing gas in the fire. We felt like we felt like we were screwed if we spoke, and we were screwed if we said, and if we're screwed if we said we blah blah blah. We were, let me try to say that again. We felt like we were screwed if we spoke, and we were screwed if we were silent. The best thing we could do is just deliver and give you a thing that was better. In hindsight, that obviously wasn't the right decision, but that was the mindset at the time. The mindset of who? Because again, we go back to him claiming in other places that he wasn't aware of a lot of the things that were going on or the decision making. He still claims that he doesn't know who put out the original statement of you're going to hear people say that they won, but we won too, and everything else. There's just a lot that doesn't add up here when you start analyzing what actually went down, the conversations that were made. Now, there is something to be said about silence, and actions speak louder than words. But at the same time, um, at the very least, they could remember they made that vague tweet. They said we've heard you. We'll have a statement coming out soon. And remember, they didn't say we've heard your concerns. They said we heard your feedback, and it was like we're not giving you feedback. We're telling you that what you're doing is wrong. And what's really ironic to me is that the idea that that 1.1 was something that was going to get thrown away before the leak was ever out there, that they were already working on the 1.2 based on feedback. What feedback? Because the only people you had given it to at that point were the sweetheart partners that you were trying to get in to give them a better discount. Because remember, that 25% commission, that 25%, sorry, royalty that they were wanting from people um, had already gone out. And Kickstarter, as an example, had made public tweets how they had gotten that down to 20% for people who did Kickstarters as opposed to 25%. So that this is the stuff like that went out in public, and then Kyle comes out and does this interview and says, "Oh no, we were always going to change the 1.1 and make it to the 1.2. Those changes were already happening. That's why we were able to get that updated version out so fast." if your changes were already happening, then why do you have the head of Kickstarter Gaming coming out and saying that, yeah, we got you this extra 5% back in your pockets, guys, because that 1.1 draft, yeah, that's a thing. Like, that's not just a draft. Like, that's what Wizard gave us. We negotiated on your behalf. We were able to get that down to 20%, 20% down from 25% for those of you who use Kickstarter for your, and that's it. We're good to go. I'm waiting to hear final everything from the Wizards of the Coast team to know when that's going to all go into place and how it's going to affect you. And we'll all know more when they finalize things. Like it was already being finalized, like the 1.1. It wasn't until the entire world blew up and all the third party content creators went, no, you're not getting 25% of our revenue and the license back stuff and all this other stuff. So when you have things like that out in the public, I just don't believe that they, Wizards of the Coast and Hasbro, didn't make changes based on the uproar and the cancellations and the boycotts and everything else. Especially when you have, like, I just, this morning at 6 a.m., I talked about the recent Bank of America report that went out on Tuesday, where they're continuing to say that or that Hasbro, excuse me, is an underperforming stock that's losing horribly right now, and they are extremely concerned because of not just the Magic the Gathering thing, which was reported on back in November, but also because the boycott against all things Dungeons and Dragons. So this was a situation that was exploding around them. So again, this is just one of those things where I wanted to kind of dive into this a little bit more because I just again, I get that actions are louder than words, but you can't sit there for weeks, and not say anything. And when you do say something, it's an extremely vague tweet. There's also the issues, and this is another thing which we can cover here in this segment of the video, is um, what happened to the conversations around why is everything being pushed through the D&D Beyond website, right? Like any official communication has come through the D&D Beyond Twitter and the D&D Beyond website. Why not publish things through the Dungeons and Dragons website, or better yet, the Wizards of the Coast website? Why is it all going through D&D Beyond, which is a product? It's a you're trying, and I think it's because they're trying to push everybody to D&D Beyond as the official place for all things communication related to Dungeons and Dragons, which makes me wonder, well, what's the point of the Dungeons and Dragons website? What's the point of the Dungeons and Dragons Twitter? What's the point of the Dungeons and Dragons Facebook page and so on and so forth, unless that's just going to become their marketing wing and they're just going to share like trailers from films, trailers from videos, video games, excuse me, and press releases related to upcoming products. I don't know, but it's another weird cog in the wheel, so to speak, as to what's going on with all of this. So it's just an interesting thing, looking at the conversations that have happened around um, the last few weeks. And Kyle Brink out there doing interviews, but not with any actual media outlets, only with like specific influencers. I don't know. I feel like if they really wanted to make a statement, they would make a statement and get a press release put out there, and more importantly, put Cynthia out there. Like he mentions her in. Let me go pull up. I think it's the other article here. I'm gonna scroll down. I gotta find it here. He wanted to say that authority being given to the Wizards staff is now flowing directly from Cynthia Williams, the president of Wizards of the Coast and digital gaming at Hasbro. So why wasn't authority going from her in the first place? If it says president here, but I thought she was the CEO of um, Wizards of the Coast. Maybe I'm mistaken on that, but it says president here. But it's an interesting thing because she has a position at Wizards of the Coast. She also has a position at Hasbro, and the CEO of Hasbro, or the president, the guy who's there now, used to be president at Wizards of the Coast. So everybody's double dipping, and it's a weird thing. But we have heard nothing but radio silence from Cynthia Williams, and I still come back to, why is Kyle Brink the person out there doing all of the public relations when he's just the executive producer. He's not the head of marketing. He's not the head of public relations. He's not a legal entity for Wizards of the Coast. Um, is he a genuinely concerned individual who's trying to take charge? Some people say that he could be, but when I see all these interviews going out there and it's not, I don't see actual interviews being done with media outlets. I see interviews being done with influencers, which makes it suspect to say the least. It doesn't, again, going back to what they claimed, it could just be coincidence. It's not coincidence. It's targeted public relations. Anyway, food for thought. So this will be where we wrap up this particular episodic content moment, portion, whatever you want to call it. If you're here for the live stream, stick around because we're going to be continuing to talk about other things during the live stream, which happens, of course, every Sunday morning at 8 a.m. Central Time, and I pull sections out like this for the week. If you like this, don't forget to like, subscribe, hit that bell icon, of course. Smash all of those buttons down below if you want to support any way you can. Super thanks, super chats, memberships beyond. You can pick up a copy of our tabletop sourcebook and the first module over at our Patreon page. It's that world map behind me. There's a Discord as well. Links are all down below. There's a point and click adventure game and a book series that you can get involved with as well. That's it for the episode, folks. Until next time, stay safe and happy gaming. And for those of you who are here during the live stream, that's the outro, which I got to timestamp that, and then we'll continue on with other stuff. 21.08. On a side note, let's go over to Paizo real quick. Dun, 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 dun. Ooh, I haven't covered this one. I don't think I've even read this one yet. I saw a mention of it, but I haven't covered it yet. We may go through this morning. I think this was Ryan Dancy saying something about they chose the wrong. Dun, 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 dun. We're gonna read through this. This may be the next episode that we do, but for the meantime, Paizo had some fun stuff happening. Was that on February 3rd? What's the date today? Oh, that was the previous week. Okay, so it didn't actually happen. Because they had the open gaming thing for Starfinder, so they had a sale going on. The book sale, let's check out the Humble Bundle, because I think it's going on until later this month. It still has an additional 11 days to go. It has since sold 76,000. 76,000 packages have been sold out of this Humble Bundle, which is amazing. I picked it up. Totally worth my time. Mark Hoover says you're not wrong in being skeptical. I don't think so. Josh says paint minis, be happy. I was painting minis up until before we moved. Actually, all of our minis right now are in a storage container. I don't know where. Somewhere in one of our storage containers, all of those minis are there. But we bought at auction. My brother was at a like a local fair, county fair in Missouri where he lives, and there was a kid there who had a 3D printing operation, and he had his own little shop set up there, all his tables and everything, and he was selling like this big lot of minis for like $1 a piece. And it was mostly fantasy stuff. And they weren't the best quality in the world. Some of them were better than others. But here's the thing. If you go online and try to buy miniatures anywhere, eBay, doesn't matter where you're going to try to buy miniatures, even the cheapest 3D printed miniatures are going to cost you $7, $8. And this was 2 years ago. That's what I haven't checked in a couple of years, but that's what they were costing a couple of years ago. Like $7, $8 just for cheap 3D printed miniatures. And then you want good quality, something from like Hero Forge or something, you're going to pay $25 to $50 for a high quality 3D printed miniature. So, and forget about the pewter ones. Like those are a freaking fortune. And thankfully, I have a whole box of those in storage in Colorado at my sister's place from back in the day. Anyway, big lot of miniatures, a buck a pop. He had like 125 of them, and my brother just offered him $100 cash for all of the everything he had, and he said yes. So we bought this lot of 125 miniatures, and then we were painting them before Chris and I moved. So my brother shipped them down here, and we were doing live streams of all the miniature painting on our Weave and Void YouTube. I think those are still up if people want to go check those out. I did 7 or 8 miniature painting videos, and we've got 7 or 8 of those miniatures got painted, and then Chris and I moved, and those have stayed in storage. And I hesitate to think what have happened to all my paints because it's very humid where we live and very hot, and everything's just been in storage in a non-air conditioned area. So I don't want to think about what happened to those paints. I need to dig those out actually and take a look. But I do like painting miniatures. Poor Chris. She's very upset about her cable right now. Um, Let me see if she wants to come in here and we'll talk about her art. Let's see if she's available. If not, we'll move on to other topics. Are you available? All right, Spiegel, come on. ¿Quién más quiere jugar? She's doing dishes. She might pop in if she gets a chance. We'll see. Smeagol, come here. I don't want you on that chair because you guys are all being naughty this morning. Come on. Get over here. Hey, no. You listen to Daddy and get over here on the chair. Oh, off the chair. Sorry, on the bed. And I'm supposed to have your sheet over there, but I don't. Anyway, where was I? Miniatures. I like painting miniatures. Used to be back in the day, before the internet. That's what I used to do for fun. Was I would come home from work, um, and I would either play on the Nintendo 64 or I would paint pewter miniatures for Dungeons and Dragons. That used to be the thing that I did for, I don't know, 3, 4 years when I was in my early 20s. What's up? You coming over here, Smeagol? Um, and then I got out of it for many years. And then we started painting them because we were going to offer miniatures on our Patreon. Um, but that kind of didn't happen. We were going to open an Etsy store and we just decided against it after Chris and I moved because it is a nightmare to ship things from where we live um, because of shipping costs. So that's all on hold for the moment. Well, I think what we're going to do is the next time we go up um, to my brother's ranch, I'll just prep a bunch of stuff and take it with me so that I don't have to pay outrageous shipping, and then my brother can set up the Etsy store on his own on his end. This is the logistics of being remote sometimes. What's up, Smeagol? No, you better not chew. No, do not chew on this. No, leave my cable, little shit. No. Your brother destroyed another phone cable, another charger cable of Christina's, and she is very upset with her. No, he wants to attack the microphone. Fuzzy. They're cute cats, but God, they're destructive. Stop. Stop. I'm going to put you out if you're not going to be. Ah! I may have to put him outside. Come on. Go over there. Yeah, go over there. Thank you. Good boy. Cats, man. Oh. Okay, you're being a little crazy with my hand back there, buddy. I sat in on a Starfinder campaign last night. Stayed up way past my bedtime. But thanks to Mike and the crew for letting me hang out with them. Liam says, forgot about those minis. Man, everything just, all my chat just popped all of a sudden. I don't know why it's not showing up live. paint miniatures. Hang on. So Liam says I forgot about those minis. Yeah, they're still around. They're in a box though. I gotta try to go. I should go find them this week and see what happened to my paints. What are you doing, Smeagol? Getting your smelly, sticky saliva all over my hand. Mark Hoover says paint minis with insufficient ventilation. Be happier. I've been there. Josh Potter says I ran a paint and take yesterday. I think that there were several new hobbyists. Nice. Cats can be like that. Mine tried to eat the couch. So, well, here's the thing. My wife is not a cat person. Was not a cat person. I remember when we were dating. Um, we went to a coffee shop, and yeah, what's up? We were sitting across from a table from each other at a little cafe out on the street in Cancun, Mexico, where we met. And drop the cable, buddy. That's my headset. I'm already having problems with my headset. Um, and a street cat came and jumped up on her lap, and she literally cried. Like she didn't want to touch it, and like started crying in the middle of our date. And she was not a cat person for many many years. And then because when she warmed up to animals over the years. You're gonna fall, and if you stick your claws in, yep, there you go. Um, she was not a cat person for many years, and then we moved in, and Mama Cat had all the babies and deposited them on us, and Frodo is her baby. Like Frodo and Sam are her two big babies. Smeagol is one of mine. Smeagol and Pippin, Merry and Luke and Leia. Yeah, you're just being all sorts of crazy this morning, Smeagol. They're kind of like they have bonded more with me than her, but Frodo has bonded with her. Frodo and Sam are her babies, and the problem is they're hybrid inside outside, and so they hunt and they destroy shit. Like and last night with Luke being locked up, it was raining outside and cold. He really wanted to go out and phone. He got the second phone cable charger. So mommy is reverting back to I hate cats. Like today, mommy does not love cats. Today, mommy hates cats. So, um, what is Smeagol? He's just being all sorts of. What's up with you this morning, buddy? Yeah. At the very least, it's gonna be This will be an entertaining video that I can put up next week, talking about tabletop miniature painting and how Smeagol keeps interrupting me. So anyway, yeah. I may pull those miniatures out and do some more painting uh, sometime in the near future. We'll see. I got too many other irons in my fire right now. Oh, I got sidetracked. Was talking about Starfinder too. I got to participate in a Starfinder campaign last night. Stayed up way past my bedtime. What? No, don't jump down there because that's my Xbox controllers. I said no. That's all the controllers, buddy. Why don't you go back on the bed? Go on the camera bag. Go on. Thank you. Had a lot of fun, but I stayed up really late. That was not good. I'll be hurting today. See you, Josh. Hop down, buddy. Okay, yeah. Usually he goes to sleep, but he's just sitting here being all sorts of talkative this morning. Let's dive into the Ryan Dancy one here. Let me do another timestamp because we'll do another episodic thing. Oh, just calm down, buddy. I got a thing in my hand. Where are we at? We are 34 minutes in. All right. Let's go back to that because I wanna talk about that. Dun, 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 dun. All right, for those of you watching the live stream, if this is your first time tuning in, I timestamp thing and do intros and outros because these come into episodes that I release later in the week and I cut out of here. So 3, 2, 1. Hey everybody. So now we're going to be digging into this article over from Wargaming, which talks about Ryan Dancy discussing how Wizards picked the wrong Creative Commons license for D&D. Somehow I missed this one. I think this was probably from the. I haven't read this yet, so I don't know what this is pulling from, but I'm assuming it's from the Roll for Combat interview he did a couple weeks back. Maybe that was a week ago. Stop it, Smeagol. My cat is being ridiculously naughty this morning. Come here, get back up on the bed. I may have to put you outside. Um. Anyway, if you like this kind of stuff, like, subscribe, hit the bell icon. This is a part of the live stream that we do every Sunday morning called This Week in Tabletop RPGs. We do these live at 8 a.m. every week, and then we talk about various things. So let's go through this. It says, dun, dun, dun. I'm scrolling down here. Ryan Dancy, former D&D brand manager and one of the architects of the original OGL, has criticized Wizards of the Coast for, in his view, using the wrong CC license. Interesting. Smeagol, you're just not going to let it go, are you? Wizards released everything under the CC 4.0 international license, and according to Dancy, this is an issue because CC BY does not require you to give the same rights to your derivative works to the public that you receive from the upstream contributors of the work you're using to make those derivative works. I don't know what that means. Does he give it better clarification? Okay, they do give a better clarification, thankfully, because people like me might need some time to process what that means. It says, put it less confusingly, whereas the OGL requires derivative works to use the same license and keep their tabletop RPG content open, this isn't required under CC BY 4.0. It says someone could take D&D's rules, make new content from it, and then close that content off with a new, more restrictive license. Says here, he says, would Wizards intend to let someone take the rules of D&D, make a derivative work from it that might be possibly better, close that work, and then fork the commons? I say no, they would not. They just used the wrong license. It says here, if correct, this wouldn't just be an issue that impacts Wizards of the Coast. It might change the entire open ecosystem that's developed around 5e and the OGL. Dancy reckons the right copyleft license or copyleft license used would have been CC BY SA, the crucial SA for share alike, meaning all content published under this way has to use the same license as the original. While he thinks Wizards used the wrong license, it seems he believes the mistake won't have any dramatic impact. He says it's unlikely there will be much use, if any, of the CC BY fork, suggesting that creators will continue to publish their work under the OGL just as they did before. I think that assumes a lot. I think that assumes that people aren't going to be terrified of, hey, Smeagol, I gotta show you guys this. This is hilarious. So we keep the we keep the big bag of food in here, and he's going to town in that big bag of food. So I have got to put him out. He's being a little obnoxious booger. 1 second. Come here. Going out, buddy. Cats. Love them to death, but sometimes. All right. What was I saying? OGL. I don't know. So here's the problem. I think if you read, let's go back to the interview here. Oh, I think it was the previous Wargamer piece here. Okay. There's a section here at the bottom of this other piece by Wargamer where, is it this one? This might not be the one. Somewhere in I think the Halflings interview, there's a section where Kyle Brink was saying that, you know, the OGL as it stands now, he says they're not going to mess with it anymore, and the only thing they're really doing is potentially adding language to the SRD to the Creative Commons SRD to like update races to peoples and stuff like that. The question that I have, and I think a lot of people have, is can you trust Wizards of the Coast to not try to come back around again and touch the OGL 1.0 or 1.0A, because they've shown that they were willing to attempt that, and they might attempt that again in the future. They are saying right now that they wouldn't do that in the future, but I don't think anyone trusts them at this point. So when Dancy suggests that creators will continue to publish their work under the OGL just as they did before, I don't know. The CC BY thing, it's interesting because if you look at like what's going on with Broken Weave right now, they're blending the 5.1 SRD with their upcoming and unique, I think they call it C7D20 system. And what Dancy is suggesting here is that they could then decide to take that blending and just close it off with their own fork and say, this is our unique system. That's the C7 D20 system blended with the 5.1 SRD. That's our unique system. We're now closing it off, and it's a separate fork of that um, Creative Commons license. I mean, I don't know that anyone would I don't know that anyone would do that. I'll be very curious to see if anyone has the balls to actually come out and publish anything new under the OGL moving forward. Um, even, you know, Wizards having said, yeah, sorry, we're not going to do anything with it. We're not going to touch it. We promise. There's no legal paperwork that says that they can't just turn around and try to do that again. And everybody's like, yeah, the SRD 5.1 is out in Creative Commons now. It is. And that means that I can make 5th edition compatible products now without even needing to reference the OGL. So why would I reference the OGL? Like, and I am an independent creator with everything we have going on with the Weave and the Void. Um, at this point, I'm still waiting to see what's going to come out of the ORC alliance with Paizo. But the question I have is, why would I ever consider doing anything with the OGL ever again when the 5th edition stuff is out there and I could just do what Cubicle 7 has done, and I could take our Weave in the Void and blend my homebrew, which is what I wanted to do originally. This is an interesting thing because what I wanted to do originally was use my homebrew system, which is based on uh, 2nd edition revised AD&D, right before 3rd edition, right? Like all those books that came out in like the early 90s. That's the edition that I like the most. That's the edition that was in my formative years of learning how to play D&D. I learned on first, moved into second, and then everything that I DM'd was starting with that. But I used a hybrid system. I threw out a bunch of the rules that were in those books and just did my own thing. And I was originally going to do that when we were making our products for sale. And then I started looking at the legalities and potential lawsuits and all this other stuff. And I said, you know what? I don't want to deal with any of that. I might as well just use the OGL so that I don't have to deal with any legal headaches. It's an open thing. Everyone's using it. Ouroboros, the Middle Earth stuff. Everybody's using the OGL, Pathfinder, so on and so forth. So I said it looks like it's pretty safe to use. And coming back around to that, it looks like I could theoretically go back and do what I originally had planned to do, which is have my own unique system that is blended with the 5.1 SRD and just make my own fork and say, this is my system. That's a blended system that has my homebrew blended with 5th edition, and here's how you can use my system with 5th edition. I believe GM Dave is also doing something like that right now. He's just launched this new world, and he's coming out with 3 little source books. Like one is the source book, the other one is how to adapt monsters from 5th edition to his setting, and the other one has something else to do with how to adapt different things from 5th edition to his world. And if you look at Cubicle 7's Broken Weave project, they talk about how like there's sections in there. Welcome to the channel, Tony Hacker. Um, there's a section in there where they talk about how it's not just about this new world, it's also about how to adapt. Like they have a section there, how to adapt monsters and how to adapt things over to their system from 5th edition because it's a blended thing. It's a weird scenario. So the thing is, though, I haven't seen Broken Weaves source book because it's in a Kickstarter phase right now. So I have no idea if it's going to be published under the OGL or not. Um, Remains to be seen. But I don't know. It's an interesting take on things. I hadn't read this from Ryan Dancy yet, so read through it at your leisure. I'm going to drop a link down below into the uploaded video portion of this for those of you who want to read more, so do that at your leisure. If you're watching this during the live stream, stick around because we're going to keep continuing onwards. But if you're watching this in the episodic format, when I've pulled this out and published it later on in the week, this is the point of the video where I say, don't forget every Sunday at 8 a.m. Central Time, we do This Week in TTRPG, so if you can come tune in live, that's awesome. If you like what you saw today, don't forget to like, subscribe, hit that bell icon so you never miss an update or live stream. And don't forget to support all the ways you can with super chats, super thanks, stickers, memberships, the Patreon page where you can get a copy of our source book and the first module. Chris is working on art right now for the next module. I'm in the middle of doing map tutorials on Incarnate here on my YouTube channel and then getting into the map production for that. So we got another about 30 maps we got to create. We're going to be live streaming all those. So hopefully you'll check out all that stuff. And we'll see everybody in the next episode. Until then, stay safe, everybody. Happy gaming. All right, I got to timestamp that, and we will get on to other stuff. Where did I put my book? That is 45.51. Video 1, video 2. I like doing this format because I can come in and I can do the live streams, and then I cut these out, and then I don't have to record additional content for like Monday and Tuesday. I can just pull these out and have videos ready to go. So hopefully you enjoy that as well. James Thrash says, I don't know either. What do you not know about? I got caught up in things. I don't know when that chat came through. Also, the chat's being weird on YouTube this morning. It's not. It's like coming through in batches as opposed to coming through as it is typed. I don't know. Starfighter FAQ and errata update. I haven't checked this one yet, so let's just dive into this real quick. This was published on the 10th, which was 2 days ago. We recently updated our Starfighter FAQ and errata with a slew of new entries. You'll see all the errata entries by expanding their dropdown. Cuckoo. Necessary errata for Starfighter stellar species, including updated rules for devastating throw and draconic shot. Cool. Okay. Going back to the Humble Bundle RPG thing that dropped. This is such a crazy deal for me. I know a lot of people already had these books in their repertoire. I did not. So if you don't own this, I'm going to reiterate on this. Go do it. You've got like another 10, 11 days left to pick up on this. It's 28 PDFs for $25. You get the core rulebook. Welcome to the channel, Apocalypso. You get all sorts of amazing stuff in here. I'm actually terrified. I have not opened. I've downloaded everything, but I haven't opened up a single PDF because I'm finishing up the Starfinder core rulebook this week. I should have 2, possibly 3 episodes coming out this week as I continue the Discovering Pathfinder Starfinder series. Sorry. And once that's done, I got the open gaming thing says that open gaming deal that they were doing had the Star Wars. My brain's not working. I'm running on like 3 hours of sleep because I stayed up late last night with the Starfinder things, and then it poured down rain last night, and we had cat stuff. Anyway, um, the Pact Worlds book I got for free as well. So I'll be doing that one next. And after all of that, theoretically, we're still trying to nail down. I know my brother's in, and I know one of our community members, Lance, is in. So I've got at least 2 people who want to play Starfinder. My brother had a couple of his buddies. One of them said he wanted to participate, but the other brother hasn't said anything yet. And if we don't get confirmation soon, we're just going to move ahead with 2 or 3 people. But I'd like to do a Starfinder campaign in March. But if that doesn't happen, I'll still be going through and reading through the Pact Worlds stuff, however long that takes. And I'm going to continue to create more Starfinder content. I have some ideas for things I want to do around Starfinder, even if I'm not actively DMing any campaigns, because I have some things I want to do. But Pathfinder will be the next thing I get into because I've heard lots of great things about Pathfinder. I now own all of these PDFs, which means I can get a pretty significant discount to put them into Fantasy Grounds and run stuff through Fantasy Grounds since I have the pro Ultimate license with them. It makes sense to do it there. I had my first chance playing Foundry last night, um, and it was interesting. I saw some things that I liked a little bit more than Fantasy Grounds, but I know how to use Fantasy Grounds, and I saw things that I think work better in Fantasy Grounds. So it's an interesting thing. So we'll see. Um, Mark says YouTube feels laggy this morning. I don't think it's just here. Okay, that makes total sense, Mark. Thanks for that. Babylonia says good morning. Good morning, Babylonia. How are you doing? Welcome to the channel, Barbara Lee Weaver. Oh, you know what I should do? I should go check. Um, Hang on. I gotta go to another place here. Holy shit. Okay, I'll have to check this out later. Apparently my video for this morning has gone crazy um, while I was doing this live stream. It has jumped up and done like 1,300 views in like the last hour. So that's going to be a pretty, there's already like, I don't know how many comments I need to go respond to. So that's cool. I'll go dig through those. Um, I love the comments on YouTube sometimes. I have way too many people who are wanting to latch on to Kyle Brink's statements about, they took one of Kyle's statements way out of context. He was talking about white people in the way he said it was probably not the best way to say it, but I understood what he was saying, which is why I did not find it to be offensive. But there are way too many people out there who are like, he just said that he just said that he just said that white people don't belong in tabletop, and that's racist against white people. And it's like that's not what he said. And if that's what you pulled out of that, that's this stupidity around the woke culture. Someone made this the other day. We were talking about. I swear this ties into tabletop, so bear with me. We were talking about the Babylon 5 reboot. J. Michael Straczynski had a post up on his Patreon page talking about it, and somebody came on and made some statements about how, oh, they're just gonna make the new Babylon 5 reboot. Just it's gonna be a bunch of woke crap. And I'm like, did you never watch the original Babylon 5? Because the original Babylon 5 had transgender characters, gay characters, all this other stuff. And then people who are trying to claim that The Last of Us is woke, and I'm like, do you not realize that Last of Us has always had gay and transgender characters in it? But there's this fixation by a certain subset of people right now because of this culture war stuff where they have subverted what woke means. Um, and have now applied that label to anything they disagree with. And so now they're saying that Cynthia Williams and Kyle Brink and all they're anti-white, and it's like that's not what was said. Anyway, I'm gonna go respond to those comments later because it makes me chuckle how uptight. Um, yes, Babylonia, it's bad faith read on Kyle. People are chomping at the bit to be victims. It's a horrible. I'm an older white dude, and I get yelled at a lot by people on the internet for not, they're like, you can't talk about that. You're a white man. You're not allowed to talk about it. Fuck off. I can talk about whatever I want. Mark Hoover says every sci-fi show has been woke. Look at like even like Deep Space Nine. That show had woke characters on it. It's like Star Trek of all places has been woke. And then the best rumor I've heard recently, and I promise we'll spin this back around the tabletop, was I was on TikTok last night, and somebody threw up a rumor that it's completely a rumor. There's no anything in here at all. I've never seen anything about this in reality. It's just a rumor that's now sprung up that it says that Disney Plus. It literally says rumor. Disney Plus eyeballing a Luke Skywalker um, LGBTQ plus storyline for an upcoming young Luke Skywalker show. And this is based off of the fact that Mark Hamill made some statements a few years ago where someone had always asked, well, was Luke Skywalker gay? And Mark Hamill's response was, if he's gay to you, then he's gay. He's like, it doesn't matter. It can be whatever you want it to be for that character to resonate with you. Welcome to the channel, Maya Everett. And I thought that was an interesting. And, Mark Hamill had an interesting take. I think he's very open-minded. Now, if you read the stuff that used to be canon, which was the legacy or whatever they're calling it now, the Legends expanded universe, Mara Jade and Luke Skywalker got together. He was very much a heterosexual male. But because they've never shown him with a partner in any of the films, now we have people out there who are claiming that they're going to make a young Luke Skywalker show and Luke Skywalker is going to be gay. And I'm like, okay, if they did, who cares? Like it just doesn't even matter. It's also like that would be like someone saying, "Oh, Gandalf never had a girlfriend. Gandalf must have been gay. That's woke, and they're just going to ruin the character of Gandalf by making Gandalf gay." How is that going to ruin Gandalf? Like, anyway, I'm going to spin this back around to tabletop discussion because of the woke factor that people are accusing um, wizards of. Here's what I will say about that. If you are a company that employs hundreds of employees, you do have to be conscious of the political aspects of your brand if you want to continue to be a prominent brand. Which means if the current point of view around subject matter is changing and you want to remain at the forefront of your industry, you have to change with the times. If you don't change with the times, you get left behind. Um, it's been a very interesting conversation to have around the last few years. Um, they are being very cautious about things because going back to some of the earliest Dungeons and Dragons modules and things, they were written at a different time. And absolutely, if you read some of those things without the context of when that stuff was published, it might seem problematic in the current era. But you have to consider that when it was written, it wasn't problematic. So you can't judge it with the same set of eyes. It's kind of like how segregation used to be a thing. So Chris finally wanted me to watch. She'd wanted me to watch it for about 6 months with her. It's called Hidden Figures, and it's about these amazing black women who were scientists working for NASA and the shit that they had to go through when they were working at NASA back in like the 60s, with all the Apollo missions and just the racism and everything. If you've not watched that movie, it is a brilliant movie. Very, very good film. And we were watching that, and it's like if you look back 50 years ago, 60 years ago, segregation was a thing. Now, if you look at segregation and if you judge segregation by our standards today, it was bad. Absolutely bad. But it wasn't considered bad back then. Does that mean that people were bad people back then? Man, that's the tricky conversation because people didn't know any better back then. It wasn't considered a bad thing back then. So when you look at some of the things that were written in the tabletop space 50, 60 years ago, it may it may have been written in a way that looks poor in today's standards, but back then it wasn't. The problem with that is if you try to judge things today by the stuff that happened then, it's a whole there's a whole bunch of issues and it's a tricky, tricky situation, which is why for them, if they want to remain at the forefront of the industry, they do have to navigate that. They do have to navigate that, and they do have to attempt to deal with the people who are up in arms about the things that were published, because some people aren't smart enough to not judge things based on the standards that we have today. Some people aren't willing to accept that that wasn't considered wrong then, so we can't look at it in the same way as we would view it today. You can't. You just can't. Bubbaloni says, I'm a 54-year-old white guy who worked in academia for some time. Kyle was less than artful to be sure, but he wasn't calling for old white guys to retire their books. Silly shit. That's exactly the thing, dude. That's not what he was saying, but yet you have some people out there who are misrepresenting what Kyle was saying, um, and claiming that white people need to stop um, playing Dungeons and Dragons. That's not what was being said at all. So it's a very interesting conversation to have. It's also going to be interesting to see these conversations continue to be had. Um, Anyone who raises these points about older D&D, point them to the introduction to the Player's Handbook 1E. What is that? Is that something I can Google? Copy. Hang on. What exactly am I looking for, Mark? Hang on, my phone's beeping. While I wait for you to answer that, I need to check my phone. I don't know which phone's beeping at me. It's not that one. Hang on. What exactly am I looking for, Mark? Is what I was asking in case you missed that, and I'll be back in a second. I got to grab my other phone. Mark says, I don't think Kyle was saying that. I only object to his assertion that it has long been an assumption, yada yada, when the fact has always been. It basically says D&D is for everyone. Always was too. Oh, okay, I got you. Car's intro. Sorry, I'm just trying to Google it to see if I can find up if we have anybody that actually has. Okay, this is a PDF. Players, and more players. That's what compromises. That's what comprises the D&D phenomenon. And phenomenal is what it is. As the audience for this, the granddaddy of all role-playing games continues to expand. D&D players happily come in all shapes and sizes, and even a fair number of women are counted among those who regularly play the game. Oh, hang on. He just said even women, which means oh god. Widespread appeal cuts across many boundaries of interest and backgrounds means the D&D players are marked by a wide range of diversity. In fact, one could easily use the analogy that there are as many types of D&D players as there are D&D monsters. After that, draw your own conclusions. There are unquestionably fast players, slow players, clever players, foolish players, cautious players, reckless players, generous players, greedy players, friendly players, and obnoxious players. As diverse as this melange of enthusiasts is, they all seem to share one commonality, a real love for Dungeons and Dragons. By the way, is that centered properly on my screen? It is not. Um, dun, 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 dun. It's a devotion that few other games can claim. This remarkable loyalty is a great factor in the game's explosion of popularity, and Dungeons and Dragons has become a gaming cult as avid D&Ders. That probably didn't help them, the use of the word cult during the Satanic Panic, as avid D&Ders have ceaselessly spread the gospel. Ah, that's awesome. Um, that's so cool. Cooperate with other players and respect their right to participate. Dun, 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 dun. But it says right here, D&D is all about diversity. D&D players happily come in all shapes and sizes. But the thing is, somebody's going to look at that part where they say even women, and they're going to say that's problematic because they didn't consider women to be equal. That's just it was remarking on the fact that at the time only men played D&D, but as it became more popular, it's no different than gaming. When people started playing video games, it was mostly guys who were playing video games, and now there are not necessarily an equal amount, but a rising number, and we're getting close to an equal amount of female gamers. And some of the biggest streamers in the industry are female streamers. It's not sexist, it's just fact. Facts of life. Even women. Shazam! Yeah, TTRPG is for all comers. No one is or ever has been gatekeeping the hobby. I agree. Bubbly says, I've said it before, but we had two girls, they were girls, at our table regularly as far back as 1980. Inclusion has been part of the mission statement from day one, is the point, says Mark. Amen. Mark says Bubbalonia. I fully agree. So yeah, no one has ever been gatekeeping. Um, that's a great way to put it, Mark. No one is or has ever been gatekeeping the hobby. It's one of those things where people want to find things to be offended by, and I don't understand it. Wayne says, sadly, in today's world, everyone wants an excuse why they couldn't do something. And it's crazy times we live in. I think nothing is crazier than, yeah, I got you, Babylonia. We were kids, so I won't call the women. Crazy times we live in. I think that the, I'm going to use air quotes here, the controversy around um, Hogwarts Legacy is an extension of this conversation because you have so many people who are claiming that it's this thing when it's not because they just want something to be offended by. Um, yeah, Mark. I mean, that's where I'm at too. This idea, which in my mind is partly Wizards of the Coast trying to placate the mob because they're like, oh yeah, we gotta. Sorry if we've been gatekeeping. We'll try to do better in the future. I don't think anyone has ever been a gatekeeper. I've played at a lot of tables over the years, and I've never seen gatekeeping. Usually, what it is, oh my God, you want to play Dungeons and Dragons? Fuck yeah. Come on, we meet every Saturday. It doesn't matter who they are, what color they are, whether they're male, woman, it doesn't matter. We didn't care if they were gay, straight, trans, black, white, red. Doesn't matter what language they speak. It's like, you want to play tabletop? You want to play Dungeons and Dragons with us? Fuck yeah, let's roll. Like I've always participated in games that had that attitude at the table. Not once have I ever seen this so-called, you know, attitude of we're gonna keep it very, you know, close behind walls. We're gonna gatekeep. We're not gonna let these people in. We're not gonna let. Oh, you're black. You can't play. You're a woman. You can't play. Um, Bubbaloni has a good. He just said truth. He says kind of like metal music. You like metal? Fuck yeah! It's totally true. Like I've never seen the gatekeeping that some people claim is a thing, but I've also never seen conversely like the idea that someone's this came out was it 2 years ago 3 years ago they had to redo one of the didn't they unpublish it? There was a source book or something that they published, and it had mention of this like monkey race in it, and people drew some sort of weird like they're talking about black people because they're calling them monkeys, and I was like, I was like, what are you even talking about? Like, I've never in my life, I had to go online and look up what people were talking about in terms of the monkey commentary. I had never heard about that. And some people were like, well, that's just because you were never exposed to it. And just because you didn't realize it was there doesn't mean it didn't exist. And I'm like, are you sure about that? Or are you sure that, maybe you're just putting an interpretation into something that you want to put? Because we could literally look at it's like the people who get offended about calling um, elves and dwarves races. Like it's racist to call them racist. And when they took out the pros and cons system and now everyone just has pros, no one has negatives, no one has any cons. So it's like used to be if you were a halfling, you're smaller, so you naturally have a higher dexterity, but your constitution sucks, right? Because you're not a big, healthy dwarf or human. So, but no, that's bad because you're saying that race is inferior to another, and therefore that's racism. And I'm like, that was never about racism. Who the fuck are you that's interpreting stats to equal racism? Like the idea that that could even be interpreted as racism blows my mind because it doesn't even enter into my consideration of tabletop gaming. I want to have a pro and con between the different types of races that a character can play because it makes it more real. It's like, yeah, elves are skinny and fast and agile, right? But they suck at like they're not very strong, like a, you know, big ass half orc would be. Like it totally makes sense that it would be like that. I don't know. Food for thought. Mark says I never saw or scented anything like it either. Wayne says role players, in my experience, are some of the most accepting group of people I've ever known. Only thing in role playing that offends me is the D4 because it bloody hurts when you step on it. Truth. That is so true. Oh man. Um. Oh, it's bad as that's as bad as Legos. That is as bad as Legos. Um. Oh wow. That's amazing. The D4 should be outlawed. Pain of death for manufacture and distribution, possibly for possession. That's brilliant. That is brilliant, everybody. So yeah, D&D and tabletop has always been about inclusion. So I don't know where, you know, uh, where people are assuming that it never has been. I've never seen the gatekeeping. So all right, folks, I need to wind down because it's about 9:15. I got to go get breakfast, everything. There is an additional there's a video coming out at 10 a.m. that's going to be on the Broken Weave Kickstarter, so check that out. If you're watching this, by the way, for those of you who are watching this after the fact, because I will be cutting this segment out and doing another video about this, don't forget that every Sunday we do these live streams at 8 a.m. Central here on my channel, so hopefully we'll see you next week. Like, subscribe, hit the bell icon, all those good things so you never miss an update or a live stream. Support if you can with memberships, super thanks, super chats, stickers, and beyond. You can get a copy of our tabletop guidebook and the first module over at our Patreon page. There's also a book series, a point and click adventure game. There's a Discord channel. All the links are down there. So, yeah. Until next time, everybody, I'm out. Bubbaloni says, leave my caltrips alone. D4s are definitely as worthy of being caltrips. A handful of D7s will roll ankles. Truth to that. Well, I'm out, everybody. We'll continue to cover things this week. I don't know what's coming up this week in terms of news, but I'll continue to keep things up to date as often as I can. We've got, I think, 2 or 3 new Starfinder videos are coming out next week. I got 2 or 3 new Incarnate tutorials coming out for those of you who want to get into map making with Incarnate for your virtual tabletop stuff. Chapter 33 for the novel should be out. I think we're going to be wrapping up with chapter 35, so we're really close to wrapping up the first novel for The Weave and the Void, so that'll be out. I'm trying to get that wrapped up by March so that I can get it out to the alpha readers. So check all that stuff out. Yeah, for sure, Mark. Appreciate it. Appreciate you guys hanging out with me. Have a great day off, says Bubblania. Thanks for off to the replay for the first 45. There you go. All right, folks, I'm out. I'll catch you all next week. I'll probably do some live streaming in the middle of the week with Incarnate and some gaming and stuff. So if you guys can tune in for that, I'll see you then. Otherwise, next Sunday for more tabletop stuff. Until then, have fun this week, everybody. Have a good Sunday.